ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic. Mike King here. This is the Empower Hour. Mike King, Tiffany Greene. She is the Princess of Purpose. Welcome, ma'am.
Oh, did you say Princess of Purpose?
That is you.
She got her crown.
I had to get my tiara.
The Princess of Purpose.
Yeah, tiara. There we go.
Oh, you're cutting out, Mike.
We've lost our host.
You lost your host. So I'll fill in until you come back, Mike. When you come back, I'll drop the tiara. Okay? Not drop it. Actually, on.
Hello.
There you are. You're back.
Maybe not.
Not really.
I am here.
What's going on with your mic too, Mike?
Okay, Mike's mic is, how about now?
That's good.
That's better.
All right, okay, good. So we're back on the mic. Mike King here, Tiffany Greene, the Princess of Purpose. Her illustrious squad is put together. Welcome back, Tiffany.
Thank you, Mike.
All righty, really quickly, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I am Tiffany Joy Greene. I am the founder of Empower People, and Empower People is an organization that provides education, connection, and support to mission and purpose-driven leaders to drive positive impact and empower people. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and obviously our website, MPWRPeople.org. That's MPWRPeople.org. And don't forget on social media,
Hashtag
#People.
Tiffany Greene, the one and only. Yes.
We heard the one and only, and then
That's because that's all you are, dude. One and only.
mic drops. Well, I'm going to go ahead while Mike is not working. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to announce that we have our certified Empower People certified small business and nonprofit advisors with us this morning. Stacie Briley Goodman, owner of Origamic Solutions. We have John Rabil, owner of Entrepreneurial Legal Advisors, that's ELA. And Brian Kinzie, he is the owner of Tinker HR. You can tell that there are certified advisors by the logos that sit behind them. Wow, I did my little Vanna White. I don't think I did. I'm not going to get that yet. So what I'd like to talk about today is the first thing I'm going to talk about, because this was a hot topic in a group I was in yesterday, is it's called, I want to make sure I'm saying it right, because John knows exactly what I'm about to talk about, because I had a question for him about it yesterday, and I actually completed what I needed to do yesterday for it too. The Corporate Transparency Act. John, spill the tea. What do we need to know about the Corporate Transparency Act as LLC businesses?
So the Corporate Transparency Act is new. It was effective January 1st. Basically, it requires businesses to file beneficial ownership information, is what they're calling it. It's with FinCEN, it's like the financial crimes database. Basically, what you've got to do is register your company with the federal government. If your company was in business prior to January 1st, 2024, you have until December 31st of this year to get it filed. If you're a new business, I believe, started in 2024, I think you still have 90 days from the date you started to register. At some point, that's going to switch back to 30 days. So most businesses have to register with this. There's a few exceptions. One prominent is nonprofits aren't required to register. But most small businesses are going to have to register for this. If you don't, there's a $500 a day fine. I think it maxes out at like $10,000 total, but $500 a day will add up quickly. So it's an important thing to be aware of. I still regularly run across business owners who have never heard of it. So definitely something to be on your radar and get taken care of. It's an easy thing that you can do to avoid a lot of potential trouble down the road.
Where should people have heard about this, John? Like, Because so many people haven't. Is there something that we're missing? Why do so many people not know about it?
I'm not sure where, like, we sent a huge note to all of our clients. I know a lot of CPAs and accountants have been alerting their clients about it. Most people I know have heard about it from their advisors or strategic partners who've let them know about it. And I'm sure there's some news buried somewhere in a press release about it that no one ever saw, but yeah, most people are getting it from their advisors.
Well, you teed this up very well for an infomercial. So if you don't have this great strategic partners or advisor, it's time to think about it. Because they should be telling you. They should be telling you about this. What's the deadline to complete it?
If you're a business that was in existence prior to January 1st of this year, you have till the end of the year. If you're starting a new company in 2024, you have 90 days to register at the moment. But I would do that rather than later if you're starting a new business, because originally you had 30 days to do it. They switched it to 90. I expect they'll switch it back to 30.
Counselor, what designations need to do that? Is it just LLCs? Explain that and talk about the process of how much work it is for business owners. I think it's a lot of times business owners are going to put this off until the last second.
Well, I think a lot of business owners still don't know about it, so they're going to get caught up in trouble at the end of the year. It doesn't matter if you're an LLC or a corporation. If you're a small business, I think doing under like $6 million a year, I believe, is the cap. Then you've got to file, and so that covers a lot of businesses. And you've got to report the beneficial owner of every company. So a lot of companies or businesses have like a umbrella company that's owning a handful of other companies. So you've got to report for all of them. You can do it online. I can't remember.
I did it yesterday.
Website. Yeah, if you Google BOI filing, it'll come up. It's FinCEN is the place where you do it. Yeah, somebody just put it into the chat.
Thank you. It was super, super easy. I actually had John, because John also is my attorney. I'm like, John, can you just look this over? Make sure I filled it out right. And it was good because he noticed that I forgot to check one of the boxes. So it was really simple. I think it took me like less than 5 minutes to do it. It's that easy. Just make sure that when you're filling it out, you have your EIN number ready, if you don't have it memorized.
Yeah, basically you put in some information about your company and then put an ID in there for each owner that's got a report and submit it.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to the Empower Hour. Mike King, Tiffany Greene. We got the her all-star squad is with us. We do this Tiffany, what is it? Is the first Wednesday?
First Wednesday of every month at 9 o'clock virtually. No
There you go.
excuses. No, it's so easy to join. So easy to join. The first Wednesday of every month at 9 o'clock.
All righty. And what can people expect what was your idea about putting this thing together? And what can people get from it?
The idea of the Empower Hour is the ability to be able to ask any of your business management or leadership questions to those who are experts in the field. And so it's an opportunity, in essence, to get some free advice, especially for the small business and nonprofits out there that may not have all this expertise readily accessible to them.
All righty. So, John Rabil, thank you for that. So, Stacie Goodman, this goes right over into your area too, which is the operation and processes. A person really needs their process, things that happen like this, so things don't catch you off guard. Is that?
This particular item is probably something new, but it is good for business owners to stay abreast of what are the new legal requirements and HR requirements. So I was speaking with a client last week about non-competes not being valid anymore. And he's like, when did that happen? You know, I was like, oh, it happened about, July, January, somewhere in the spring. I don't know. I can't remember the date that John told us, but it was helpful, to have for me to have counsel that is readily. I get emails from from the lawyer as well as from my tax accountant that do bulletins on what are the new laws that are coming up, because there are different pieces that happen at the state level as well as at the federal level that make significant impacts to our businesses. So that is probably something that it's not an operations process, so to say, but it is something that the CEOs or leadership team needs to stay on top of in their respective disciplines.
So, Brian Kinzie, Tinker HR. A lot of times we have policies and things that pop up in the HR world that business owners don't know about. And those are the things that come to the Empower Hour for, because we have the experts here. Let's talk about your world and what some of the things mean to you that pop up that business owners don't have a clue, which may get them in trouble, just like John said.
The biggest thing that I've been running into this past year has been misclassification of employees as contractors instead of employees. So they're basically, businesses are paying their employees as a 1099 and essentially avoiding having to pay payroll taxes that way. The problem is that they are, if you look at how the Department of Labor or the IRS looks at, their actual classification should be as an employee, which means they're paid under a W-2, and they can get in lots of trouble and owe lots of back tax money if they have people classed incorrectly. So I'm sure John's probably run into this a little bit as well. But it's a big problem. And if you remember the stories that came out, I guess, a year or two ago about all the IRS agents that the government was planning to hire, 50-some thousand people, they were hiring them to enforce laws like that. So a lot more employees these days are working in the gig economy where there are working multiple part-time types of roles, and there are a lot more people who are getting paid as 1099s. That's going to definitely be an area of emphasis moving forward. And I definitely run into a lot of companies that have people misclassified. So I think that's probably the biggest one I'm seeing these days.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Oh, Tiffany Greene, how can people get information out about Empower Hour? That way we want to make sure as people come and go on the call that they're able to connect with you and the Power team right here.
To get access to Empower People in the Empower Hour, all you need to do is become an Empower People member, which is there's a free membership called the Mission Membership. And all you need to do is fill out the membership form at empowerpeople.org/join and just fill out the membership agreement there. You learn about the Empower Hour in a multitude of ways. I like to think I communicate in all ways possible other than carrier pigeon. I send out a variety of emails, mass emails. I try to do it so communication is consistent while at the same time not bothering people. I also spread the word through social media, like I said, LinkedIn and Facebook. And if you run into me, I will remind you of what's coming on. So there's a variety of ways to get involved. And in the emails, when you do receive emails from us for any of our events, you just click on a button for that event, fill out the registration form, and you get sent the link to the event. That's as simple as that.
Also, talk about our experts here. I know they are experts in their own field, but they went through the extra with Tiffany Greene to be on the Empower Hour team, correct?
Yeah, they just went through a little bit of extra. They're
Just
like
a little? That's not what they said. They said they went through a lot with you.
Hey, so yeah, they went through some education, peer group coaching, and peer group advising with us for almost 2 years. So that was pretty extensive. And then they had to take a verbal exam, and it was a collective exam, meaning it wasn't one-on-one, it was with them as advisors, talking and working together, because that's to me what's, knowing the content I should say this, like I had no, no reservations. These are subject matter experts, but what else is important is how well do they work together? Because if these advisors are going to come together and work as a board for our clients, we want to make sure that they can work very well together. They can. So they got certified at the end of June. Let's give them a round of applause. I think we did that last month, but it doesn't hurt to do it 2 months in a row. Nobody minds applause, right? Woohoo! So yes, they are certified Empower People, small business and nonprofit advisors. And it's, people use, there's a lot of terms in the industry when you're a business that are used extremely loosely. Certified is one of them. So this was I'm going to say a legitimate certification program.
All right. Mike King,
so let
Tiffany
me,
Green here.
We have some guests, Mike.
Yeah,
No,
I would like to say one more thing before we transition to another question. I want to remind folks, we haven't done a formal launch of it. I have mentioned it in passing, but we haven't done a formal launch. We have what we call the Wisdom and Resolve memberships, which are 2 of our paid memberships. So if you're looking to have one-on-one advisory support with any of our certified Empower People, small business and nonprofit advisors, you can get that support through the Wisdom membership. And this is your opportunity to meet with them one-on-one. And so, 1 month you might be meeting with Stacie, another month you might be meeting with John. It can transition based on your needs. Then through the Resolve membership, our other paid membership, now you get to work with the board as a collective unit of advisors. So these advisors come together, you get to meet with them, and depending on your needs, that could be monthly, quarterly, biannual, or annual. So it's very, very affordable. I set this up to make sure that people can get the advice that they need at an affordable rate. So those are 2 of the memberships. So if you like what you're seeing here at the Empower Hour and you're like, I need more, well, you can get more, and that's through the Wisdom and Resolve memberships. Sorry, Mike. I saw that you turned your camera off.
No, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for the information. Tiffany, you always come with some great information. Let us know what we're talking about today in the topics that are burning in your world.
There is one thing that I thought it would be really great for the advisors to discuss today, because it's something that continually comes up. We as advisors have actually talked about it, but this is a very common mistake that small businesses make. We're going to talk about it today. Let's just do it. Let's pull off the Band-Aid. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room that most businesses, regardless of size, regardless of how many years in business they've been, they make this mistake, which is mixing their business and personal finance. So I want to throw this out to the advisors. I'm sure nobody here has worked with anybody who's ever done that. But if you have, what did you do to help what did you do to help them course correct?
Well, the first thing you have to do is talk with them and help them understand why they need to keep these things separate. I think the most common business is a solopreneur. When you have that classification, a lot of times it's a side hustle that they started and maybe have grown it into a bigger company. And so they were just running everything through their bank account, their personal bank accounts. And maybe they kept their book, some of their books separate with regards to receipts, when they go to the tax accountant. But as they grow, then the requirements change for the IRS, especially when you get into an LLC, where you're trying to protect your assets, separate those personal and professional assets legally. Then the books, we have to start splitting the books, out. Now the problem is you can't go back in the previous years out of, filing. So it starts a new process. For me, a lot of times I've had to go in and look at the the company's books. So they need to, give me access to a QuickBooks or something like that. So I could, because it takes time to look at that stuff and figure out what steps you need to take. If they are a heavily transactional company, I would recommend that they get a bookkeeper. One, because it separates the owner from the financial activities and the processes. And so that creates a barrier for commingling because you have a separate entity, person doing that work. So you have a check and a balance in that. If the owner decides they want to still do it themselves, because they're like, I know for me, I knew I needed to understand my finances when I started my business years ago. And that was a learning opportunity for me to work with my accountant to try to figure out what was going on. And I'm blessed because my husband is an accountant. And so when I have financial questions now, or I just need something explained, right, I have the opportunity to go to one or both. But that would be I advise them to make sure they have an accountant, not only accountant who does their taxes, but one who will actually consult with them a little bit, give them some education. Empower People is starting to try to bring in some financial education. So I'm encouraging my clients to enroll with Empower People because it's free, but it also starts to give them education in areas that they're not experts in. They're experts in doing what they do for their services or their product. They're not necessarily business minded individuals. So once we get that separated, and then it's giving them additional financial education. Now, financial literacy is also one of the elements. So if you're not good with your own personal money, you're not necessarily going to be great with your business money. Understanding how your revenue comes in. So a nonprofit, for example, some of the nonprofits are reimbursable. So they get grants. So they're like, I have money because I have these grants, right? So I'm budgeting and planning to get this money, but the money is reimbursable. So they have to have seed money or money in savings in order to spend it so that they can file for the grants reimbursement versus knowing that it's a gift money that's coming in without having to go through all the reporting. And that's a big difference as well with understanding the differences between how your cash is going to flow. And so financial literacy on both sides, I think it's also important for business owners to do once they get the processes in place and the tool in place to separate the two. The best advice I was given, and any advice I give to, actually, if I have a subcontractor, right, that's setting up a new LLC, I'll tell them, I need you to have a separate bank account. They're like, well, where do you want me? I'm like, no, you need a business, get an EIN, get an LLC, get a separate bank account, because it'll just make your life a whole lot easier. So giving that information up front, educating young business owners that are budding business owners of start out the right way the first time, then you don't have to go back and fix it or deal with potential consequences later from not establishing that separation.
Thank you, Stacie.
Hey, Stacie, really quickly on that one. Could you touch on, because you went to that, touch on really quickly what we talked about, which is the life cycle of a business. We talked about that the other day. So it's not your young business. You are, I guess, evolving, but touch on that for a second. Maturity. Yes.
So businesses start out and they're like children. They're immature at first. They don't know how to crawl, walk, or run. They have a good idea. I had, my son at age 6 thought it was a great idea to go pick up the rocks in the neighborhood and then resell them to people. So that's what he did. But so he had a great idea, but he didn't understand how things worked, obviously. But as the business owner educates themselves and gets to know how things are doing, and that's through experience, and it's through education and books and YouTube. My son is turning 18 on Friday, and he's been running his little small business, and he's learning a lot through YouTube. he's, learning to research. He also, they had a personal finance and economics class that Chesterfield County requires all students to take. And so it set a foundation for him. So he started to learn. Then he got experience because he actually worked a 9-to-5 for the first time this summer. And he realized that he had the supply of being willing to, detail cars, but didn't have the demand coming in. So some days he sat there in the heat by himself, trying to figure out how to market. And so he learned how to do some marketing and just learn through experience. A lot of small businesses are that way. They get into a certain, it's called a reactive state. It's the initial state of a business maturity. And then you grow, and what you end up in is called a siloed state. And so because it's everybody, so each of our blocks that are on the screen, each of us would be focused on our own little space and our own boundaries. And we really don't know what the other one's doing. We're sort of aware, but that creates disconnects and what I call a constellation of systems, right? Because they don't interact and they don't necessarily all connect, but they do what they need to do. And so as we start to help businesses figure out how to move through this maturity path, from a reactive state to a proactive state, it's like helping a toddler, making sure they don't run before they learn how to walk, right? So you have to crawl, walk, and then run, or else you fall flat on your face if you get going too far, too fast, and get your head over your feet. So that is, that's part of the process that I work with teams. My clients is looking at evaluating where they are on the maturity block of a business. It's separate from their personal maturity, but and do they have their processes documented? Do they have their measurements in place? Can they see their numbers? So Tiffany was asking, if you have your finances commingled, can you really see? Can you run reports and see where you are? Do you know your numbers? Do you know your profitability margin? I've had clients that have been in 15 years of business and have no idea what their profit margin is. All they know is they make enough money to pay their bills, right? So that's in the lower level of the reactive, maturity model. And so we build in this education and this infrastructure to help them see and grow and be more proactive and knowledgeable about what's going on in their business and help them work more on their business instead of in their business. That moves them up the maturity model as well.
I'd like to add to that, Stacie, and it's not about the stages, but it's more about when I work with a business owner, regardless of what stage they're in, a lot of times they struggle because they've never done the reverse engineering. And what I mean by reverse engineering is, what do you want to make out of your business to sustain your family, your lifestyle, whatever it is? And then let's reverse engineer what your business actually has to do to support that. And that's why a lot of business owners make the mistake of just taking money out of the business because they see money there and they're like, well, it's my business, I'll just go take the money out there. But you got to pay yourself like you would pay an employee. You got to get in that mindset. So you got to reverse engineer it. But I just wanted to add that little tidbit. We call that success planning. That's what we call in the business planning curriculum. That's part of success planning. Yeah. But Brian, John, I want to open the conversation up to you too. I'm putting you directly in the hot seat. Does it burn?
What are we talking about now?
Business maturity.
I didn't know if we were on business maturity or we were going back to co-mingling finances.
Co-mingling.
Yeah. I think you covered all the maturity stuff, Stacie.
You have legal maturity elements. I'm still going through them with you.
Yeah, from the legal standpoint, as your business goes through those stages, your risks will change and you just have to adjust to them accordingly. I think with the co-mingling, yeah, the way that I usually see it happen is someone started with a side hustle and they were just getting paid into their personal bank account. They may have grown up from there. They may have grown up from there significantly and started an LLC, but they still never went through all the steps to unmingle their assets. And it happens with solo owners and partnerships. I mean, I don't know that there's, one or the other. It happens to all of them, but they don't ever take the steps to like finally formalize it. So they may get an LLC, And oftentimes these are people that are doing their own taxes and don't have an advisor in that world either. So they get an LLC, but they don't have an EIN, don't have a separate bank account. This causes a lot of problems for them. Essentially, their LLC is worthless from a legal standpoint because they're not going to get any limited liability protection from it. And if something goes wrong, the owners are going to be on the hook in those situations. And so it's fine if you start out with a side hustle and you're taking a little money on the side, but when you decide to formalize it, you've got to start some sort of like clean break. And it has to involve a formal business structure, an EIN, and a bank account. It's like no way around it, I would say.
John, you brought up some good things that made me think of another question I've heard from an Empower People member. We're going to put a pin in that question to give Brian an opportunity to share his thoughts.
Yeah, I will have absolutely nothing to add to the co-mingling, so I'll skip that. All I said tell people is like, yeah, that's a bad idea. You need to talk to a financial expert and not me about this. So for maturity of the business, I mean, I definitely look at through kind of the HR lens and the management style that it takes to, go from being a person who's doing it all themselves to having employees, and all of a sudden they're having to figure out how to delegate things out to those employees. So that's a different skill set than doing it all yourself. And then the next stage in maturity that I see is when you've gone from managing all your employees directly to you're suddenly managing managers of those employees, which is again another skill set that's different than just delegating it all out directly on your own. So I definitely see those as stages the businesses go through that, if they don't handle it correctly, causes massive problems. A lot of it comes down to Stacie's world, where they don't have systems in place because they've just been, why would I sit down and write out a system or policy for something I just do on my own? And then it gets kind of backburnered, typically until something blows up, unfortunately. So the companies I've seen transition best are the ones who do have that infrastructure in place, that have their policies, their procedures, that have clear roles for people, defined lanes, job descriptions in place, so everybody knows what everyone else is supposed to be doing, and then they stay in their lane. So which is hard in a small business because you have lots of people wearing lots of different hats when you're a small company. So but that's kind of where I think of things in terms of business maturity. And when you start bringing in all the different outside support mechanisms to help you out as well. When do you bring in a bookkeeper to help you out? When do you bring in legal assistants to help you out? When do you bring in a happy HR consultant to come help you out? People ask me all the time, like, when should I have an employee handbook? And my general answer is, well, the correct HR answer is, as soon as you have your first employee, you should have a handbook. The real answer I tell people is, like, as soon as you hire the first person you don't know, that's when you need your handbook. So that's when you really need to start figuring out how you want to operate as a company, what rules you want to have in place, what expectations you have for people, what you want your culture to be like, how you want to operate as an organization. So it's fun to see what organizations kind of transition through those various stages with more bumps or not, depending on how things go for them. But it's definitely a real thing to see companies go through and business owners go through.
So the one other thing before we move to your next question on that is, for small business owners, if you are looking to grow, you need to save money, right, over to the side to fund that growth, because that is an investment to get somebody. Sometimes you have to look at it. I can do it on my own. I'll try to, Google up what an employee manual looks like, and I'll take a whack at it, or an operations manual. But you can find that it's more beneficial to you to hire someone to help build that for you, because you can't do everything, and it takes away focus from your core business. So making sure that you have a savings plan built into your processes, your financial processes, that you're going to put at least a percentage each month into a savings account. So not only a regular checking account and bank account do you need to start, but I would recommend also having a savings account so that you can set aside money for tax, maybe as quarterly estimated taxes that you're going to have to pay, or annual taxes, or if you're going to save money aside for future growth.
Great on bringing that up, Stacie. And I'm gonna, before I get to the other question, you brought up another valid point, which is that made me think of nonprofits and having reserves. There's some legal things to consider with that. So John, do you want to offer any 2 cents on reserves as it applies to nonprofits? It's like, I don't know if I want. Look at his.
No.
Like in terms of, can they have them? I mean,
Like most of them are required to have.
yeah, nonprofit reserves are fine. I mean, I don't really have much of an opinion on it. I think generally nonprofits should be looking at running their business like a regular business. I think that's where they get into trouble. So they should treat themselves essentially like any other company, for-profit business. There's no difference other than how you dole out the money at the end. There's no owners of a nonprofit per se that can take out distributions, but other than that, they should think about running essentially like a for-profit company does.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Empower Hour. Tiffany Greene here. She is the Princess of Purpose. Mike King, John Rabil, Stacie Goodman, Brian Kinzie, subject matter experts, offering information for you to help you run your business and operate in excellence, as well as pitching in all the questions you may have. So Tiffany Greene, we can reach people here every first Wednesday, correct? And
Correct.
it is
Wednesday,
9 a.m.
morning.
9 a.m. the top of the morning. That's even top of the morning, even in Canada. That's right.
Well, depending on where you are, but if
I was getting ready to say that.
Irish accent when you say top of the morning.
I tried to have a professional operation, and this is what it turns into. All right, Tiffany Greene, you have some upcoming things. So you talk to the members here individually. At times you guys offer classes. Really quickly, give our listeners and viewers an idea of what you do. The other times when you're not here on the Empower Hour.
Yes, so the Empower People has a variety of educational opportunities and ways to learn and grow. So this month, for example, on the first we had know before you buy. And what did that mean? That means what do you need to know before you buy any software or SaaS, which was very, I highly recommend that. A lot of people buy software thinking it's going to solve all their business issues, and then learn, hey, that didn't solve any, because software is just a tool. Remember, software is just a tool. You may have a paintbrush and some paint. That doesn't make you a famous painter, Leonardo da Vinci or somebody, right? So we have, let's see, on the 15th, we have Managing Your Ego with Susanna Calvert. Let's be honest, everybody who's in the business world and in any leadership role, we all have egos and we need to learn how to manage them. So this is going to be a phenomenal course on the 15th. And next week on the 13th, we're recording our Let's Evolve Together with Empower People show, and I will be interviewing Senator Tim Kaine for that event. So lots of good things coming up this month. And next month we have the Empower Hour again, the first Wednesday of the month, but we also have 3 more courses coming up next month as well. So I think I actually saw somebody who's attending this one put in a submission form for one of our upcoming courses next month too, which will help with creating a brand story. Is just one of the examples. So there's so many events, so many opportunities to learn and grow. One of the other things I'd like to mention is we do have our purpose membership, and these are folks who are leaders who are whose purpose is to help small businesses and nonprofits thrive. And through this program, they get the education, peer group coaching, and peer group advising to grow as leaders. We have our first group that formed, I believe, in July. It's going strong, getting a lot of positive feedback. So if you would like to get the support you need to really develop yourself as the purpose-driven leader, please reach out. Our free membership will always remain free, but there's other opportunities for you to learn and grow through some of our paid membership as well. But please reach out to me. We have so many ways to help you. help you.
Tiffany Green is she is the princess of purpose. Tiffany, really quickly, I know you have some other topics you want to touch on, but really touch on really quickly the purpose of the power of purpose with the bottom line in a business organization, whatever it is. It is the power of purpose.
So power of purpose is really simple. People do not work for, nor do they buy just a product or service. They're buying purpose. They're buying and those that they feel like they're aligned with in their purpose. And there's no better loyalty than that. So if you're talking about profitability, if you are constantly focused on the profit and profit alone, you're missing the thing that drives an organization, which is purpose. Your employees want to know what your purpose is. They want to feel like they're aligned with it, that they're participating, that they're a major contributor and making that purpose come alive. And your vendors and your suppliers, and obviously you can't be in business without any customers or clients or members. So they too have to feel like purpose. They have to buy into your purpose. And it's more not buy in. Let's be clear when I say buy in, I don't mean taking out their credit card and buying. The loyalty you see in marketing and branding, you hear a lot about community, right? So it's not just about brand, it's about community. And what's rooted in a brand or a community is purpose. So if you establish a community amongst your brand, that means everybody is purpose aligned. Purpose is what drives your business forward. It's not, as you say, Mike, and you'll say, oh, people think it's kumbaya. Hey, I sang kumbaya, choir camp, have no problem with kumbaya, but that's not what purpose driven leadership or driving your organization based on purpose is. It's really the root, it's the why, it's why everybody gets up in the morning. And I always say to you, right, Mike, haven't met the person who wakes up in the morning and says, dang, I'm excited to make that business owner more money. I haven't met that person. If you're listening right now, no judgment. I just haven't met that person. So I'm going to transition to the
We don't see any hands going up with that, Tiffany. No, we do not. That you had a burning desire to wake up to make your boss money alone. Really quickly on that note as well, the savings cards that when you go into the store and they ask you for your phone number, you'll notice they always call it the loyalty card because they understand the building community. Oh yeah, you can save a penny or two, a buck or two, but we want you to say that you're loyal to us and we'll give you something for it because there is power in that.
Did you know it's not just about loyalty though? Do you know why they want you to be a loyal customer and give you loyalty rewards?
They want your information so they can sell it to someone else.
Now
I'm cynical
of you, Mike King. It's also because data is, I say, king, queen, and the whole entire royal court. So when you sign up for that loyalty program, now they can study customer behavior, which, let's be clear, better serves their customers. It's not so cynical as selling the information, although I gotta say my daughter is up in arms about Roblox, alerting the gamers that their information is being sold. She does not like that. So to all those who play Roblox, check your email. But yeah, so these loyalty cards, so these loyalty programs, while it's great to get the rewards, that's one way they build the community. But the second way is by getting and retrieving that market data to better serve you. But I'd like to transition into the next question. Is there a time, is there a situation where it's best to stay a solopreneur or partner and not file as an LLC or corporation? I've had these questions before, so let's let the air out of the bag and let's just address it.
No.
He said no.
Yeah.
That was easy.
The council
out,
does
Larry,
that really quick. It's like no. And that's a period with a no, not a comma.
So the follow-up is why? Just for clarity.
Because you're personally going to be on the hook for anything that goes wrong with your business. That's too big of a risk. I mean, personally, right? That means bank accounts, cars, house, whatever, everything's up for grabs when something goes wrong. I know a lot of people have like little hobbies where they sell stuff. That's different. If you're putting yourself out there as a business, you should be an LLC or a corporation.
For those that think creating an LLC is a lot of work and it's not worth it, can you just speak to, we already know that you're like, hey, go get your LLC. You already tested to that, but how easy is it to get an LLC? Like, is this a difficult process?
No.
Well, no, forming an LLC with the state is pretty straightforward. You need to take a couple of steps after that, like setting up your company documents to make sure you're really protecting yourself. But generally speaking, especially if you're a solo owner, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I mean, so I've had subcontractors, and I require my subcontractors to have LLCs, and it is for protection, but also because some of the work we do is providing consulting services to state agencies. And with that, there is insurance requirements and there's, liabilities and things of that nature. And even if the state gives you a laptop to work, right, so that everything stays in their network, you're still accountable. And if you're in a car and it gets wrecked, and you have, you're accountable for replacing the equipment that they put in your care. But they'll be like, okay, I'll go to Rocket Legal or whatever, online.com, and, set up my LLC. You can do that. But my concern is if you are scrimping and shoestringing it along at the beginning, are you really committed to what you're doing? Because it's not overly expensive. I think I maybe paid $500 to my original lawyer to set up the LLC, all the paperwork, all those things. You know that you have something that's legal and solid because their name's tied to it as well. So it sets the foundation of where your mental status is. Where am I going to do this, the cheapest way I can do it, or am I going to do this the right way and put forth an investment? And it's, to me, if you're starting up a business service, but let's just say a service business where you don't have to have inventory and things of that nature, and a lot of people or brick and mortar, at minimum, assume it's going to be about $2,000 to between, getting your LLC, hiring a lawyer, getting your LLC set up, getting your seed money into your bank account, investing in maybe in, some software or a laptop or something. Those are, your accounting system, those are types of things, but at least at minimum, be willing to put about $2,000 into it, maybe a little bit more. But if you're willing to invest, then your mindset is set that you're wanting to grow and you're going to have to invest and do things the right way. If you're scrimping, saving, and trying to get around the corners, it sets that same mindset for your future.
Thank you, Stacie. We're getting close to the end of our time, but I'm going to throw out one more question for the advisors. And this is going to be, I'm looking for everybody to just kind of share a tip, a quick and easy, low-hanging fruit type of tip for our listeners, which is, what is your tip for helping yourself work on your business and not completely in your business? What's a tip to get them to help work on their business and not solely in their business?
I think my first tip would be, and this was a harder one for me because it's creating a vision board. If you can envision your future, then you can, as you said, reverse it. You can start figuring out what steps, what's the roadmap I need to take in order to make this happen. One of the authors I really like that instilled that is Michael Gerber with the world's greatest small business book that he has, and there's a seminar on Amazon that I thought was great. It's you can listen to, but he walks you through those. But he's like, you have to start thinking big, and once you start thinking big, then you have to figure out how am I going I can't do this all on my own. How am I going to do this? How do I, the other part is if you're older and you're starting a business, imagine what it would, how do you create a business that you could step away from that would continue to give you money, feed you money for your retirement or whatever, but you need to start learning how to step away. How do I take a vacation? Like that would be even the first step. If I want to take a vacation, what do I have to do in order for me to not have to be doing the work while I'm on vacation? So vision, and then envision yourself. If you can't go too far, envision yourself taking a 1-week vacation. How would your business work without shutting down?
I'll jump in. For me, I mean, it was simple matter of scheduling the time to think strategically as opposed to being completely tactical working in my business. If I basically would have to treat myself and my time like I was an employee and trying to figure out like, okay, where am I going to direct their hours this week? What are they going to be working on? And if I had to carve out specific time for myself to think and act and behave like an actual owner as opposed to an employee of my business doing tactical work for my clients. So I had to be very intentional about it and put a little bit of discipline around it, because frankly, it's always easier to dive into helping your clients on something as opposed to, doing something yucky like dealing with financial questions about your business, or, figuring out, this Corporate Transparency Act thing that I've had a sticky on the side of my computer here to do for like 6 months now that I still haven't done. I'm going to try to do once I get off this meeting though. But those are all the things that though you end up kind of pushing off to the side. And if you don't schedule as a business owner the time to take care of those things, and that includes thinking strategically about your business, it's not going to happen. So, or you're going to end up trying to do it at like 2 o'clock in the morning when you're supposed to be asleep, because that's the only time that you actually stop working on your business. And I'm just going to say that I don't think 2 o'clock in the morning when you should be sleeping is when you're going to make your best strategic decisions. So that's all I got. All right.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, Brian stole mine. I think it's scheduling is where it starts. So, like on Sunday, I look at my calendar and block out time for strategic work, at least 2 chunks during the week. And I think then it becomes the mindset of you have to treat that like it's a client meeting or something, like something you would never miss, because something's always going to come up. It has to be a priority, or otherwise you'll move it around and you'll never get to it. Or it'll be like 2 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh, I gotta finally get to this. So I think scheduling, and part of that is thinking about what it is you need to look at during that time block. So do you need to get a handle on your finances? Do you need to think about what your marketing or business development strategies are going to be for the next quarter? Like, what are your next quarter goals or what have you? What processes do you need to put in place? All of those things that are a function of your business working on it operationally, as opposed to being in the day-to-day of mostly dealing with what comes up with clients and being reactive to everything.
Yeah. I would say the other piece on this is, because y'all have said you're going to schedule out your own time, is find an accountability partner type person or group. So we all meet and talk about, well, what we're going to do, and then say, well, what did you do? Right. And I think in church, you may go to a Bible study or something, and it just because you have that community of groups and almost the expectation that you read your book, or for book club or whatever it was that you were supposed to do. The business works the same way. If you can find a small community or some people that will help hold you accountable to working towards your goals and on your business, I found that the most helpful in the last 2 years of really pushing me to grow my business. Now my business is growing quickly, and I also is finding a good lawyer, a good support system, because like Brian's got a sticky note. I didn't have to do that sticky note. I got a lawyer who did it for me. So, but and it's, an affordable, situation. So those are things you can do. There are affordable lawyers out there. One on the screen. But that's even just having accountability. If you say it and you tell people out in the community, this is what I'm going to do, then they'll come back and ask you, so how's that going? Right. So go ahead and put that out into the community of your trusted, friends, and hopefully they'll support, ask you how it's going and be an accountability partner.
Thank you, Stacie. I can't believe it. We're almost at 10 o'clock. So we have a couple minutes left. I just want to say, and I want to add one thing to what John said, which is when you're reviewing all your business elements and thinking about strategy, don't forget to review and make sure all those things are actually supporting I know you're going to be shocked, your purpose. Because you can get sidelined quite quickly in your business if you don't keep your purpose as your guiding light and GPS for your business. So I'll leave it with that. Mike, do you want to help us close this out?
Here we go. Tiffany Greene, the Princess of Purpose. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. This is what we do every month, the first Wednesday, 9 a.m. And people come and join up. Hey, shout out to Adam. What's up, man? How you doing out there? It has been a minute since I've seen you. So it's always good when old friends stop back through. Tiffany Greene and her Power Hour squad that she put together is out there for the business owners trying to operate at the next level, operate in excellence, and we're going to level up with love. Stolen from my good friend, Stacie Goodman, as well as make sure the juice is worth the squeeze when you're doing business.
Oh, that's for an episode to be coming up. You'll figure that one out later.
That is a good one. So on the mic is Mike, ESPN Richmond. That's where you find us every morning, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 a.m. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Now take care.
Thank you, Mike, and let's evolve together.
That's right. Hashtag.
Hashtag. Thank you, everybody.